Ruggero Tita, helmsman for Luna Rossa. Welcome to the foil. Where are you today, and how do you feel after that weekend of racing in Cagliari?
So I'm here in the hospitality of the beautiful Luna Rossa base, and it's a great week, to be honest. I mean, last weekend was a very tough and intense weekend of racing, and this week started really in a satisfying way.
Yeah, we get the great sense of a feel of family, and it's something that Pete Burling has mentioned about the sense of family. Just tell us about that. Would it always be like that with an Italian team, or is there something special about being with Luna Rossa?
I mean, you know that as Italian, we are very warm, and of course, the welcome that has been here for Pete is something very special. And of course, as a Latin, we are very passionate, and the Italian community around sailing is something beautiful because when Luna Rossa is back at racing. There are so many passionate fans that comes up and comes cheering for us. To be honest, here in Cagliari last weekend was unbelievable how many fans were there to look at the sailing, but mostly to cheer Luna Rossa.
A lot of people have spoken about how Emirates Team New Zealand are releasing Pete Burling to be free to sail with another team, now choosing to sail with Luna Rossa. That's a big advantage that Team New Zealand has given away. Another one maybe is that they have decided to host the America's Cup not in Auckland, but in Naples. Is that almost an extra team member that you've been given by hosting the America's Cup in Naples next year?
Actually, to be honest, I'm not really convinced that having the cup at home is a big advantage. Of course, there are pros and cons. The big pro is that we're gonna have a full crowd cheering for us, and that's for sure gonna be something very special. On the other side, as you know, the pressure of racing at home is something that you have to manage. That's going to be a lot of expectation, even more after this regatta. So there are pros and cons, but of course, having the cup here and have it in Naples would be great for Luna Rossa. On the other side, I think that as a sailing team here in Luna Rossa, in the last period, we worked a lot, and I think we are a very strong sailing team.
Well, you certainly are a strong sailing team. The good side of that is that strength. The difficult side must be that you have an incredibly deep squad. And I'm guessing, but you tell me, how certain can you be that you will be on board the AC75 representing Luna Rossa next year in the America's Cup? Because you have so many choices.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's gonna be a long process. We're gonna sail the 75 at some stage. We're gonna sail and we're gonna mix crew, of course, and we're gonna be try to do the best to win the cup, and of course the best team will be on board and will be racing during cup.
And you will get behind that effort whether you're on board the boat or not, I'm sure. But as for getting into the racing, that we know that traditionally in the America's Cup there is so much training, so much testing. How good was it to get racing last in Cagliari, and also what do you learn from racing that you just cannot replicate in training?
Yeah, of course, was very important for us and for all the teams as well to be in the racing. We really wanted to know where we are standing in terms of sailing team performance. As you know, the AC40s are all one design boats and they are all the same, and everything is on the hands of the sailors. From having a fast boat, keeping tight racing, but the tactics and strategies as well starts are a big component of those racings, and so I think was great step into the racing. And I think what we cannot replicate in our trainings, it's the pressure and the feeling of must be absolutely performing in just 3 days of racing.
So you did what you did, and you did it extremely well. But we also know that the Luna Rossa women's and youth team had some problems on the last day. Tell us from your perspective what you think happened, say in the first start, and then we can go on to the start after that. But in the first start, they were over the line, and there seemed to be issues with not understanding the penalty that was coming from Richard Slater.
Yeah, of course. As you know, we are racing with this racing software, which is provided from the organization. Of course, it's not an easy task to synchronize all these devices, and of course, something can happen. But I think it's very hard for me to answer this question because I wasn't on board with them, and I was extremely focused on our own performance.
How much conversation is there between the two boats? And for example, did you have any knowledge that they would attempt the port tax start in the final fleet race, which they did, but which did not work out at all well for them? Did you have any sort of team orders or any clue that they would do that?
Absolutely not. We were kind of working as a split teams for this event. We had separate debriefs and separate briefing in the morning. So everyone and every team was working itself. Absolutely no teamwork and no sharing of the planning.
Okay, yeah, that's obviously a thing that comes up in Formula One all the time. Is there anything in the rules to stop you from working together as a team, even if you weren't actually doing that?
Of course, having two teams, it's very strong on another side, the side of sharing the datas of training together and sailing together, and that's a very strong thing. But on the other side, when we go out for racing, everyone is on your own, on his own, and trying to have the best performance as possible.
So you do enough, you get into the final and you go into that pre-start against Emirates Team New Zealand. You opted for the earlier entry. You come into the start box and tell us what is the strategy from there? How do things play out from a Luna Rossa perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So we decided to enter on port, and then from there we kind of played out our strategy. Worked pretty well, and from that we, after a circling, we end up in a kind of a weak position. So we decided to tuck away to have a separate start on the right side, and that worked pretty well because put the Kiwis a bit too early for the pin. They were reaching to the line, but they couldn't slow down enough, and after that they slowed down quite a lot, but they weren't able to manage to keep the boat inside the line, and they went for an early start. So they had to pay a penalty for an early start, which kind of already was paid because they were extremely slow at the start, and after that our task was kind of easy. We had a good lead, and from there, as you know, the match race gets a bit boring.
With foiling boats, it's so easy to get one maneuver wrong and then you can throw away a good lead very easily. What we don't understand from the outside, when we see something go wrong, it's easy for us to assume that it's the sailors that have made the mistake. But what we don't ever know is, was it sailor error or was it something going wrong with the machine? Was it a technical breakdown? So how much do you think that difficulties with the electronics or the systems, the mechanical systems, how much was that affecting the play over that weekend that maybe us on the outside didn't appreciate?
I think it really depends. There has been some issues mostly with GB1. They had some hydraulic and mechanic issue that took them out of the races. I think they were performing very, very well. They sailed very nicely, and the races that they finished, they were always on the top two. So I think this is a bit of a different chapter, but we are sailing with the AC40 autopilot, which is a one design autopilot, and this is kind of trying to self regulating the boat and leveling, playing the flap. Sometimes the flap is not quick enough to react to the sharp turns of the drivers. So basically, it's always a human error. It's just that we are not used to the reaction of the autopilot, and this of course, having more hours on the boat, we will slowly get used to the reaction of the autopilot, which sometimes are very different from the human reaction of a manual flight controller. And this with the practice will give us even more and more feeling on the autopilot behavior.
As for Naples itself, how much experience of sailing does the team have, and how much for you personally, and what do you expect from Naples?
Basically, there's an optimist race in Naples at the beginning of January every year. It's called Trofeo Campobasso. It's a big optimist race, and I used to go there and to be there every year. I've been lucky that I've been winning it this championship one year, and that's more or less all I know about the race area of Naples. So totally another season, and with completely different boats. So we don't know much. We haven't been foiling there. We know that the conditions are quite average, not big peaks, not huge waves, kind of a normal sea state, and good thermal breeze. So of course, we are super thrilled and excited to go in Naples for the next preliminary regatta and try out a little bit the race course.
Now, obviously, you've done extremely well in the Nacra 17, winning 2 Olympic gold medals at the last 2 games. And then I thought you'd retired along with Caterina Banti. And then you show up in here this year, Semaine Olympique Française. How did that feel to be back on the Nacra and doing so well?
Yeah, it was nice. For us, was a kind of a test. We wanted to see and to know where we are in the fleet after not having after having a big break and not much training. So we really want to test ourselves and see where we are with a small amount of training. And there was a test because we know that the cup gonna be in 2027 and gonna end in July, and after that we think we're gonna have enough time to build up a good event in LA. You know, it's not gonna be a real campaign. A real campaign, how I used to intend them, is a 4-year preparation. It's a hard work. This time gonna be a bit different. Gonna be just 12-month preparation, very tight and focused, with of course a lot of other commitments around. But let's say since the end of the cup, this is gonna be my only commitment and my only goal. And after that, we will see, and we'll regroup, reassess, and think about the preparation of LA.
And of course, to get that Olympic selection for Italy, you would have to beat a team that has just won the World Championships. Your colleagues at Luna Rossa, Gianluigi Ugolini and Maria Jubilee. So that's going to be a continuation of a battle that's gone on for many years between those 2 teams.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we are used to have very strong Italian Nacra squad. We have been fighting for the selection for a long time with Vittorio Imael. They now retired, and of course the Italian sailing squad is not giving up. Gigi and Maria are doing super well. They just won the worlds. They won in Yale, and they are incredibly on shape. So it's going to be a nice fight.
And we miss you in Sail GP. How much are you missing Sail GP, and do you plan a comeback at some point?
I'm sure that there will be time for a comeback, but at the moment I'm focusing a lot on the cup. I'm really looking forward to sail the 75 and to spend the majority of time here to make this project go really fast.
How do you think the calendars are going to work out between Sail GP and America's Cup in 2027? Do you think that it will be possible to do both perfectly, or is there going to be inevitably some compromise for certain teams, possibly including Luna Rossa with Pete Burling?
Yeah, of course, that's a good question, but I think somehow the sailing sport is kind of a small sport, and the number of fans are limited. So I really think that somehow the Cup and the CLGP have to work together to be able to merge the two calendars and make the thing possible.
Well, you and I, we both agree that it would be great if Sail GP and America's Cup could work together on that. I think it's difficult to make it happen at the political level, but I think it's great for the sport if that can happen. And Ruggi, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on winning the preliminary regatta in Cagliari. Enjoy the summer, and I look forward to seeing you, if not sooner, in Naples for the next AC40 event. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Andy. See you around.